Hello, everybody. It is me. Sorry, everyone. Adjust the camera. It's me, Ashley Brooke. So I post a short right here, and telling everybody to ask away. If they had any questions about autism. Not that I'm that I know every single thing, but I am autistic, and I went through a lot of challenges growing up. I've overcome a lot of challenges and barriers growing up. So, for example, I was nonverbal, more like mute till I was 7, and then I stopped talking from 10 to 11. It was just a couple of words here and there, maybe like yes or no, or maybe a couple of times. And I remember that's what my father confirmed. So we're gonna go. Somebody actually asked a question. So I'm reading the comments. Most of the time I have people that are sincere and genuinely care about the autism community, which is wonderful. We've come a long way, but we can go a little farther. Somebody put a question, one of them put, if you had autism, you would not be able to make a video. Ouch. Well, I am autistic, and you're an idiot. Miss Biddy. My bad. Sorry, everybody. I usually don't talk about that, but this person is discriminatory. It's very offensive to tell me that an autistic person wouldn't know how to make a YouTube video. Wow. Maybe they're just not because they don't know how to make one. Okay. Anyways, moving on to the next one. This one's more of a sincere question. It says, Chris Dunwoody. Can this condition go up through the senior year of high school? If you're asking, can autism go up through the senior year of high school? Let me see. I'm going to assume that you don't know much about autism. And I'm not saying that disrespectfully. It's just that for an autistic, I'm autistic, and for me, myself, I don't like when people call it a condition. And it's not like, oh, how long does it last? Will I be cured? That's what's wrong with society. Okay. Let me help you guys understand. What autism is a neurological difference in your brain. Okay, a neurological difference in your brain, which means we use the very analytical part of the brain. Neurotypical people are unable to use that part of the brain if they're not dependent on it. Okay? Trust me, I've seen it. But for that reason, it'll usually take away from the social and communication skills. What people don't realize is that social and communication skills is a learned behavior. You don't need to know it instinctively. So, what an autistic person has to focus on is understanding their autism, understanding which sensories they have that they're sensitive to. Like, for example, I'm sensitive to sound. It actually causes me to have seizures. And all growing up, I didn't know this. And I would have mild seizures sometimes. And when a lot of people were talking, I'd get very agitated, and I didn't want to deal with it. And if anybody tried to fight with me, I'd just be like, I don't care, bye. I just couldn't take a second longer in a situation that was just too stimulating, when it came to, auditory. I just couldn't handle a lot of sound. And till this day I have this issue. Most people will be like, oh, well, you can't tell. You don't look autistic. Ouch again. I have major issues with sound. So much that I still have seizures today. From repetitive sounds like sirens. Even if I'm in a crowded room, and even if there's one person speaking, I got an instructor, and then a bunch of people whispering in the back, and it starts all those little whispers, and the instructor, it all sounds like almost like it all comes to the same volume level, and then it feels like all of those sounds, once you get to the same level, are like all being shoved, like through a tunnel, and then I feel like I'm gonna be, like, I feel like I'm gonna go underwater. Like, imagine that happening to you, and that's what it feels like. I feel like anxiety, panic attack. I'm just like, I can't breathe. Can't breathe. And, yeah, so I have noise counseling headphones that I carry around with me now. I've learned to find what works for me. If I feel that happening and I'm getting overly stimulated in a group, like a group of people, I will usually put one of those noise canceling headphones in my ear so I can still hear what's going on, but if it becomes too much, I can, muffle out some of the sound. I can't handle it. And so that is a good example. I have issues with being touched a lot. This is something that people don't understand. When I was younger, my mom tried to stop me from doing something, even if it was something dangerous, even if she was trying to pick me up, like to be loving. I would just freak out in a way, like I would just, don't touch me, I need to have control. Like, that's what it felt like. So I remember feeling like, I need to have control. As I got older, I learned to work through my sensory overloads, and I've learned other ways to deal with it. I've learned to mentally stop myself from reacting so confrontationally. That's why I believe it's so strongly I believe it's good to understand and to let others around you know that you are autistic, so that they don't cross those boundaries, call on my autistic boundary, like, don't do these things, I don't like that. And it's just anybody's boundaries. Everybody has their little quirks, everybody has their differences, So a lot of times people I'm very much from the neurotypical, but then again, when you see the world today, everybody's kind of a little, different, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm different, but I'm also like you. I'm a person, I'm a human being, I still have all the same feelings, thoughts, It's just that the way that we perceive it, all these things, is just slightly different. So basically, getting back to what autism was, lots of difference, right? So once we can overcome this social anxiety, and learn to manage our sensory overloads. For example, when I have the sound issues, I'll do visual tracing with my eyes, and that helps me it gets kind of like say, for example, I'm feeling having a sensory overload with sound stimulation is like 100%. I just can't take it. I'll start to stimulate another sensory, so I can divide that and just focus on that sensory, so that it kind of takes some of the weight off the other one that I'm having the overload with. If that makes any sense. That's the best way to explain it to neurotypical. So once I'm able to do that, I start doing it in different ways, and I also do balancing. That's why I always teach in my videos. I'm teaching my daughter balancing techniques. Balancing really helps. Other things that help is I would practice aiming games, kind of like pool, bowling, basketball. Those type of things I would practice. It's really good. It helps your mind cognitively. Let's see. So let me just see here. So up into the senior year of high school, they're asking, you will still have all of these sensory issues, I guess. It must be an issue for you now. For me, I'm just kind of like I have to learn how to manage it, and then it's not an issue. And also, once you can overcome, learn how to balance your sensories, then you can work on your self-esteem. Knowing who you are, and finding your learning style, so that you don't feel like, oh, I have a disability. The more educated you become, the more and we're really good at that. Just know that we are very good in research, problem solving. This is where the analytical part of the brain kicks in. That's what's gonna, where you're gonna feel like, okay, I may be autistic, but I brought out the gift that comes with autism and not the disability. okay? It all depends, it's all perspective, okay? And I had certain things that happened to me in my life that built that self-esteem and confidence. But I felt my first experience where I felt that I was working on who I was, who am I, my identity. I think that every autistic person needs to have their identity. I used to customize everything growing up, but I didn't understand why. And I think it was way of myself, like trying to like protect myself and keep up with the world, and that just naturally made me feel better about myself. So I just started doing it, not even realizing why. And when I say customizing, I mean like I redid my whole room to a particular style. I had collections of like ladybug collection stuff because I liked them, and when I started having all these things, that's mine, I like that, that's me, you know, like that's my identity. I had to find out and like things about myself, and those things that I had picked were little, like, you know, almost like little parts of who I was, and the fact that I was collecting them and I was liking them and I was creating it, you know, it was allowing me to express myself and find myself, if that makes any sense. And that built my confidence and self-esteem. I then, I left home at 12, and you guys had a very rough life, okay? Very much abused, very much discriminated against all, my childhood. That's why I really don't take too kindly to bullies. Now, today, I bully bullies, okay? So, I, ended up, meeting a Thai Japanese couple, and they took me in, and I worked at their restaurant, and out of me wanting to show my appreciation for them taking me in, you know, I had nowhere else to go. I was a very scared little girl, very shy, but I decided to help out as much as I could, because, you know, that's, autistic people are very nice, and we are very aware of, you know, of situations, and I very much knew that they were my best option to get out of the, you know, the dysfunction and abuse that I was living in. So I felt that it was out of survival and appreciation for this family, that I pushed myself a little, and I went and I started taking drink orders only at the restaurant that they owned. And then I started, once I got a little comfortable with that, then I started taking full orders, and I pushed myself a little bit, and their son had a vintage clothing store. I started, him and my brother dated, so that also helped my self-esteem, because there's gay boys, and I feel like gay boys are the best, because like they know what it's like to be discriminated against back then, more so, you know, and it was okay that I was different, and it was okay that I didn't talk that much. Like it helped me blend a little more, because like I could have disappeared, like, you know, what they call them, fag hags, or like, you know, oh, she's a snob, you know, because they had me doing modeling things through their work and through their vintage clothing store, and they would take pictures of me all the time. My brother was a makeup artist, so he would always want to do photo shoots and practice makeup on me. So I did some like little modeling jobs for them. I think I wonder, like, did they just do that for my self-esteem because they were aware, you know, of how, you know, different I was? I'm not sure. But it worked. I at least built my self-esteem a little bit. I was still very, very quiet, but I still went and let them take pictures of me and let them do my makeup and stuff like that. It kind of brought me out of my shell a little bit. And having to meet so many different people also brought me out of my shell, because when I left home after that, after I left their house, even I ended up having lots of roommates, you know. And I worked a lot, and I had to support myself, and so, you know, I always did very good in the work, aspect, because no one asked me about my personal life. I was able to leave that out the door. I I was like, yeah, that sounds good. Let me not talk about anything about me. Let me just do the tasks, very easy for me just to do the work. Just do the work, and I don't need to talk about me, or it doesn't matter if, it's actually, it's encouraged when you're working to just do your job and don't be goofing off and don't be talking and socializing. So I was like, yeah, I can do that, set up planograms, presentation, I was like, I can do that. Count money, I can do that. Those are things that I was able to do. So through school, through working, it built my confidence and my self-esteem. The Game Boys helped me by always dressing me up and stuff. I mean, I really didn't like it because they'd always put me in makeup and flapper, and I'm like, oh my god, I hate this. I'm my Jenny shoes. But it did. But my appreciation for everything that the Thai Japanese family did, and then their son and my brother that was part of that for a second in my life. I did do a lot for my self-esteem. I don't talk to my brother today. It's a long story. We come from a very traumatic, abusive family. So just people have went their separate ways. Family value is disintegrating. So, but I humanize them. I understand why. It's just very difficult past that we come from. However, all of these differences and challenges that I experience and struggles, I have to say it's my armor because it helped me. I believe that it helped me overcome the issues. The things that I was challenging with autism. It's almost like God was there and He just okay, this needs to happen for you to get this skill, for you to learn how to socialize and advocate and do what you're going to have to do eventually when you have your kids later. It's almost like He knew everything was already planned ahead of time. I think it's a scripture that says I created you before you were in your mother's womb, and I believe that because what are the odds that I took care of senior citizens, took care of my mother who was wheelchair bound. I'm so conditioned to take care of people. And then now I have my two children that are on the spectrum, and I'm going through all this hardship and all this discrimination. And it's you have to be a very strong person to go through all this and still keep a smile and still keep your heart. And it's now I look back and I'm yeah, God was training me for sure. I love that I'm autistic. I do. It took me a long time to accept my autism and to really see that it was an ability for me now, not a disability. And it's really that choice is yours. Happiness is a choice. Your perspective changes everything. So that will determine how you choose to use your gift. And I believe autism is a gift. You just have to learn to accept and love yourself. So to answer that question, to end it, my final conclusion. You'll be autistic for the rest of your life, which is the way your brain functions. So there's a study through behavioral epigenetics. That's how autism is manifested in gene expression. What causes autism? Everybody wants to know. Can it be healed? So there's negative stimulation that happens in stages of your life, which means in the womb or up until the age of 5. And when that negative when you have an excessive amount of negative stimulation, it will mutate your DNA expression, which means your DNA coding doesn't actually change. It's always been there, and it just becomes active. It's seeing a bunch of light switches. One says schizophrenia, one says depression, one says bipolar, one says autism, one says ADHD, and so on. And during development stages, everybody interprets their environment as too stressful. It can turn that light switch on, causing it to become active. Now, right? There's still studies to be done. But I believe that once you overcome the stigma of society, once you learn to manage that overstimulation, you kind of adapt to it and you're able to use it. You know, it's like Jubilee, the X-Men. I know it's kind of such an autism thing to say. Sorry, I'm autistic. So I've always described my autism as Jubilee. Jubilee in the X-Men, she didn't have powers, and her sensories were heightened because she was trying to doing it too much, and she was like blowing shit out, doing damaging things and freaking out, screaming and stuff. Like autism. I mean, my autism all over though. So I did when I was a child, I wrote a comic book with my autistic people and their stuff, like with all their sensory were heightened, and they use it as a superpower. It was kind of cool. So basically, what ends up happening, you just have to learn to control your power. Once you're able to control your sensory overloads, once you're able to sensory stimulation, and stimulation affects your body. And I'm not talking behavioral or mental health, I'm talking medical too. How one interprets their own environment causes stimulation to the body. Okay? So too much negative stimulation is not good. It's gonna cause you to have medical health issues, and it can cause you to have behavioral health challenges. There's also and there's medical associations. I believe, I don't know if this is true, this part, right now, everything else is fact, but I believe that the negative stimulation that we're talking about during the development stages, everyone's always like, oh, did you smoke when you were pregnant? Did you do drugs when you were pregnant? Did your husband hit you? Did you fight a lot when you were pregnant? And I think those can be factors, but I don't think that's what it is. I think there's an issue with the gut, the microbiome. That's what I believe. There's issues with the microbiome, and it affects the nervous system and the gut brain, and that's why I believe that sometimes often people think that boys have more autism, and it's not true. It affects men more, and how would you say, it's more, statistics show that men are more commonly affected, intellectually, long term. And I believe that's because naturally men have more bacteria. No, men have less bacteria in the gut than women do. So, and that's what microbiome is. It's a decreasing population of the bacteria in your gut. And you need this bacteria for all bodily functions. Okay, that affects your digestive system, your immune system, and it affects your intellectual and behavioral health, along with many other aspects of your health. So a lot of people don't realize that autism is not just a behavioral, not condition, but not just a behavioral difference. And it is a difference in the brain, but it also affects your medical health if you don't understand your autism. You must understand your autism, and you require certain supports. Not everybody, but when you'll be able to tell if they have microbiome issues. The reason why I say that I believe it's microbiome is because as people get older, men and women, whether you have autism or not, decrease in population of bacteria. There's issues as a person gets older. So when you're autistic, it's easy. So even though women have more bacteria than men do, and they may appear as, you can't touch it. As a woman gets older, you'll start a little more and be able to tell that there is is some differences more prominent than they used to be. And that's why I believe that it's associated with the microbiome. Now, I could be wrong on that part, the microbiome part, but I know that there is something to that, majorly. Because I just recently started giving my son I just started giving my son probiotics and fiber. And this has been helping him, and he's been doing new things, reaching, new milestones. And he's 10, so we've been struggling a while now, and all of a sudden, taking these things, trying these different supports, and definitely 100% back now that I know for my son, definitely a lot of medical conditions associated with his type of autism. So just so you know, if you're talking about yourself, you're autistic, and so am I, and we're just differences. You need to see what's great about being autistic and embrace that. And the more comfortable you get with being autistic, you need to reach out and get the right support, okay? And if you need to reach out to me, that's fine. I'm here for anybody on the spectrum, and any parents with, that have, or any, anyone that has a loved one that's on the spectrum, because I grew up with no support, and it was very hard, and it was very hurtful, and I was very confused for a long time, and I thought that nobody liked me, my family, and I thought nobody loved me, and I thought it was hurtful. It didn't make any sense to me. I felt very confused and very, unsure of myself. And by the grace of God, I've been able to, come out of those thoughts and feelings about myself. And I can honestly say the trauma from my past, it didn't stick. God really walked me through it, and I feel that maybe He walked me through it so that I can, help others understand, so they can reach, their potential and have more opportunities, And I'm doing it right now for my children, and I just thought, well, I'm doing this for my children already, and it's also helping me heal, from the way people treated me before, and I'm just really embracing my autism. So I invite you to join me, as I embrace who I am. And if you don't know how to get started, you can just continue watching my videos, because I'm also going to be teaching my children. I'm a proud autistic, and I'm teaching my children to be so also. And I'm also guiding them with the sensory issues, and having them understand their autism, and we're finding solutions, We're problem solvers. We got this. So, and if we don't stand strong, stand together, the social stigma of society is going to haunt us for the rest of our lives. It's time for us to stand up. I mean, if you guys look at the messages, the previous message I was reading to you guys, someone being discriminatory to me, that's not the first time it happened, so. And that's because there's a lot of us that know that we're smart by now, but there's just, I made it live my life and not tell anybody that I'm on the spectrum. No, I think we should all tell everybody, whoever is on the spectrum, we should own it, because it offers that extra support, and it helps autistic people that are not there yet, and with their ability to be strong and stand up and accept themselves. It gives them that support, that they may need,